All Stop Sports. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Back with another video. We gonna talk some more boxing, but first and foremost, shout out to the LDBC. Now, it was recently reported that Terence Crawford had to vacate his IBF title due to the fact that they did not allow enough time for him to negotiate with Sergey Lipinets. Now, Lipinets is the IBF mandatory, and he recently took to Twitter to clarify with his fans that regardless of whatever decision Terence Crawford decides to make, he does not feel Crawford is ducking him in any way, shape, or form, which I agree with. Now, Terence Crawford, he appeared on Brett Okamoto's podcast yesterday, and he gave an interview which I thought he did a fantastic job. Now, Brett Okamoto, he's an MMA reporter, and they were discussing the Floyd Mayweather-Conor McGregor fight. He also asked him a few questions as it pertains to boxing, which I'm going to go ahead and touch on in this video. I encourage fans to go listen to this interview. I'll go ahead and put the link in the description to the podcast. And also, if you want to go ahead and just skip ahead to Terence Crawford, just fast forward to where there's 11 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in the podcast, and that's when you'll hear Crawford come on. Now, as far as boxing, they wanted to clarify that Crawford is one of 3 champions ever to become undisputed and hold all 4 major titles. And Terence agreed and said that, it was a goal of his. He wanted to make sure that in his division, nobody else could claim to be a champion, which I feel should hold a great deal of importance in all of boxing. We just have too many champions in these divisions. We should only want one so that we know who the best is. Also, they asked him what are the top 5 matchups in boxing that he sees. And Terence Crawford says Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G, Lomo and Rigo. He said Terence Crawford versus Earl Spence. And he said Terence Crawford versus Keith Thurman, as well as Terence Crawford versus Manny Pacquiao. But they asked him, out of those fights for him, what does he feel like the biggest fight would be? And he said Terence Crawford versus Keith Thurman. He thinks Keith Thurman is the #1 guy at the welterweight division. And he also has 2 championship belts. So that's why Terence Crawford would chase that fight. Also, I wanted to touch on what Blood Boxing said recently, because they asked Terence, since Floyd Mayweather was able to achieve 50-0, with Terence Crawford being the age of 29 and already being 32-0, would he pursue becoming 51-0 to surpass Floyd Mayweather? And Terence said no, because 50-0 was something that Floyd Mayweather wanted to chase. Terence Crawford's goal was to become undisputed, which Floyd Mayweather was never able to accomplish, and he did that. Now, the question I wanted to ask is, if Terence Crawford becomes undisputed at junior welterweight and then undisputed at welterweight as well, where do we put him in the discussion of his legacy of an all-time great? Blood Boxing, he brought that up, and I wanted to ask the question as well. I have to think about this, but it's very possible. We've seen Terence Crawford unify and become undisputed at 140, so we know that's what his character is. He doesn't want other people holding belts. So if he's able to collect all the belts eventually when he moves up to 147, where does that leave him in the conversation of his career? That's a great thought to have and something to seriously consider thinking about. How great could he be? But we're excited to wait and see what happens. This is All Stop Sports. I'll put the link in the description to the interview. That's all I got. I'm out.